Bleach meets Naruto, the mad scientist who revolutionized shinobi warfare. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 91, The Power of God, first revealed. Ask someone who is more confident to do it? Everyone looked at Orochimaru in shock when they heard this. Fourth generation, is there anyone stronger than you in the village? Who is that person? Is it some old senior? Did Ambu go to ask him? Everyone was puzzled. Only the third Hokage changed his expression slightly and whispered, could it be that? He remembered someone. That person, Orochimaru said personally that he was more fishy than himself. Could it be? Jiraiya and Namake's Minato also shuddered and looked at each other in surprise. They also thought of someone. That person once came out in person to deceive the senses of the entire tavern and talked to them. Nara Shintaku. This name flashed through the minds of the three people in an instant. That person is naturally my disciple, Nara Shintaku. Orochimaru smiled slowly. What? Everyone was stunned and shocked. Mataku-kun? Is he stronger than you? Are you serious? Fourth generation, Mataku-kun is only 9 years old. Yeah, don't joke, fourth generation. Everyone couldn't believe it. He's already in place, you'll see. Orochimaru looked out the French window and smiled faintly. My disciple is countless times stronger than my teacher. Everyone was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Swoosh. 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 The third Hokage, Jiraiya, and Namake's Minato were the first to react. They walked out of the office and headed for the battlefield. Third generation adults? Jiraiya, Minato. Where are you going? Everyone asked hurriedly. To watch the battle. Namake's Minato left without looking back. Everyone was even more surprised. Do these three believe what the fourth generation said? They looked at each other in bewilderment. After a while, people left one after another and went to the battlefield. In Konoha village, Uchiha Madara walked slowly on the street, with his hands behind his back, strolling leisurely, looking comfortable. He didn't care about the Konoha around him at all. Shinobi in the eyes. Suddenly, he stopped and looked forward. 20 meters away. A figure of a young man, sitting cross-legged in the air. It was unknown when this young man appeared, and it seemed that he had been there since the beginning, but Uchiha Madara did not find it. VR. Uchiha Madara narrowed his eyes, and he did not sense the breath of a factory hall on the boy. It was as if the boy in front of him did not exist, but was just an illusory light and shadow. However, Rinnegan would not be deceived by light and shadow. So, the person in front of him was real, but he could not sense the breath. Interesting boy, tell me your name. Uchiha Madara was a little more serious, raised his chin slightly, and said arrogantly, being able to float in the air, you must have learned the Earth-style secret technique of rock shinobi. You have a good talent to learn the Earth-style secret technique at this age. You are worthy of me remembering you. In front. The boy is naturally Nara Shintaku, who just chuckled when he heard it. He didn't answer, but just looked at Uchiha Madara. This famous figure in his previous life, as a villain boss, has great suppression and charm. He has planned for many years and successfully evolved from a mortal to a six-paths level existence. Seeing it with my own eyes, it is indeed extraordinary. It's a pity that Nara Shintaku has surpassed humans at this time. From his perspective of the divine realm, Uchiha Madara's body disappeared, and the internal flow of life, chakra, mental power, soul power, etc. were all visible. It was like Uchiha Madara was seen through by Nara Shintaku. Don't talk? Uchiha Madara could not help but frown without waiting for Nara Shintaku's response. He felt a strong discomfort from Nara Shintaku's eyes, as if he was seen through. I don't like your eyes. Uchiha Madara's eyes were cold. He raised one hand and made a ninja seal. Swish. Rinnegan pupil power surged and released like a wave. Close it forever. Tengai Shinsei. Boom. The sky shook violently, countless air currents whistled, and a strong wind was formed. A huge shadow fell. Everyone subconsciously looked up, and their faces turned pale at the first glance at the sky. Meteorite. Impossible, how can there be a meteorite here? It's an illusion. It's definitely an illusion. If such a big meteorite falls, all of us will die. Not only that, the whole village will be destroyed. Everyone present showed a horrified expression. A few people were so scared that they trembled all over. No matter who it is, facing a giant like a meteorite, they will feel desperate and powerless. A little further away. The third Hokage, Jiraiya, and Namake's Minato, who had just arrived, also stopped in shock and looked at the meteorite in the sky in horror. This meteorite suddenly appeared just now. Both and Minato said in a trembling voice. This should be the technique of Uchiha Madara. Jiraiya looked grim and said in a low voice, it's unbelievable. It's possible to create such a large meteorite in the sky. This is no longer a technique that humans can perform. The third Hokage said solemnly, no wonder Orochimaru said that if he took action, Konoha would be destroyed. Now, we can only rely on Shintaku. Jiraiya and Namake's Minato both nodded. Now, we can only trust Nara Shintaku. The shock wave of such a large meteorite when it falls is enough to shatter the entire Konoha. At the same time, a terrible earthquake will occur within 5 kilometers around. The shock wave will destroy everything within a 3-kilometer range, just like cleaning a table, razing it to the ground. Unless they run out of Konoha kilometers away in an instant. Otherwise, there is no need to run. Because there is no escape at all. Hokage's office. Silence. A group of elite jonin, looking at the huge meteorite falling from the sky, were all so frightened that they could not speak. Hey, Orochimaru. Tsunade's pupils trembled, but at least she could keep calm and asked Orochimaru, can Shintaku really block this kind of attack? Of course. Orochimaru's expression was calm, as if he had no worries at all, and he said leisurely, he has reached a place that no one can reach on the road of practice. Even if the Sage of Six Paths takes action, I am afraid they are not opponents. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Is Shintaku-kun so strong? They couldn't believe it. So much so that they didn't notice that there was some slight surprise in Orochimaru's words. When the first Hokage was mentioned before, the words first Hokage was resurrected were used. And the Sage of Six Paths did not have resurrection, but directly said that the Sage of Six Paths took action. This subtle difference was not noticed by everyone present. Even Tsunade subconsciously understood that Orochimaru was using the deceased Sage of Six Paths as an example to praise Nara Shintaku's strength. But Orochimaru was serious. The Sage of Six Paths back then must have reached the realm of God and gained immortality. It is very likely that he still exists now. According to my understanding, the ultimate of the chakra path is the God of Ninja. After the God of Ninja, life will transform, the level will be upgraded, and you will have a long life and huge power. That is, the first level of the tailed beast. Above the tailed beast is the level of the Sage of Six Paths. Also a god. Orochimaru's eyes flickered. Although he has not reached the Six Paths level, the path before the Six Paths level has been sorted out clearly. This is the information obtained by analyzing the Rinnegan. Uchiha Madara, who awakened the Rinnegan, at most touched the edge of the immortal realm. In essence, he is still at the tailed beast level like me. But his foundation is too weak. If the tailed beast level is properly developed with chakra power, it will definitely give you a long life. If you follow the path of natural energy, the sages of the 3 holy lands are tailed beast level. They have lived for thousands of years without dying. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. As a tailed beast, he had obviously developed his power more deeply than Uchiha Madara. So he would definitely win in a fight. But Uchiha Madara had a higher level of power, which was very obscure, but it was certain that one foot had stepped into the realm of immortal gods. This made Orochimaru feel apprehensive. The explosion of this power had a certain probability of taking him away. But, it can only threaten me because my level is not high enough. For Shintaku, who has already entered the realm of God, that little bit of power is nothing? In front of God, creatures below God are ants. And ants are only slightly bigger or smaller, but they can all be crushed to death with one hand. Orochimaru's eyes flashed with heat, and he became excited. This is God. What kind of power does God have? How can we not look forward to it? In the center of the meteorite. Whoosh! The whistling meteorite seemed to tear the air apart, making a sharp whistle. Circles of white air waves exploded. Oh no, the meteorite is about to fall, a ninja shouted. Others turned pale and their blood was boiling. I'm going to die. Damn it, there's no way to escape from such a big meteorite. Am I going to die today? Everyone's expression became desperate. At this time, Nara Shintaku looked up, stretched out his palm, and gently touched. It was just a casual grab. In the sky. The falling meteorite stopped in its tracks. What? Uchiha Madara was startled and frowned, asking, what did you do? Nara Shintaku didn't answer, but just put his 5 fingers together. In the sky, the space suddenly twisted, and invisible space vortices appeared, curling up the area where the meteorite was, like twisted drawing paper, towards an invisible point. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, the huge meteorite was directly rolled into the invisible point. Disappeared. The shadow covering the Earth disappeared in an instant, and bright sunlight fell again. Spacetime ninjutsu. Uchiha Madara's face changed drastically, and he looked at Nara Shintaku in astonishment. You use spacetime ninjutsu to transfer my Tengai Shinsei away? Impossible, how could there be such a strong spacetime ninjutsu? Who are you? His expression became solemn, and his eyes were extremely fearful. At this moment, Uchiha Madara realized that the pineapple-headed boy in front of him was definitely not simple. Survived. We survived. The meteorite disappeared. Great, we are fine. The ninjas and civilians in the whole village were all happy to have survived. They almost thought they were going to die. With such a big meteorite, there was nowhere to escape. Not far away. That was time-space ninjutsu? The third Hokage was shocked. Yes, it was time-space ninjutsu. Shintaku used time-space ninjutsu to transfer the meteorite away. Jiraiya felt his scalp tingling, and his heart was in turmoil, but is this something that humans can do? Humans can never do it. Minato was also shocked, and trembling. Even if the volume is reduced by 1,000 times, I will use up all my chakras to transfer it with Flying Thunder God. The 3 of them were completely unbelievable. In the Hokage building, Orochimaru fought with his hands behind his back, still with a calm expression, and smiled faintly. Did you manipulate space to move the meteorite? What a delicate and ingenious method. I thought you would smash the meteorite roughly and violently? In the office, everyone was dumbfounded. Using spacetime ninjutsu to move the meteorites away is already exaggerated enough. How come you expect Shintaku to use his strength to forcibly break the meteorites? With so many meteorites, even tailed beast bomb can't hit them. Is Shintaku really that powerful? Tsunade widened her eyes and said in surprise, Orochimaru, what are you two studying secretly? Hee, don't you know, it's just various potions. Orochimaru chuckled. Tsunade twitched his mouth, totally unconvinced. These 2 people must have something deeper. What a pervert, this kid is only 9 years old, but he has such strength. I'm afraid he is the reincarnation of Sage of 6 Paths. Tsunade couldn't help but complain in a low voice. Others were shocked when they heard this. Yes, Nara Shintaku is so strong, but he is only 9,453 years old. Looking at the history of the ninja world, there has never been such a pervert case. Of course, the reincarnation of Sage of 6 Paths is just a rant. No one believes this. Ijig. Orochimaru turned his head and gave Tsunade a meaningful look. Tsunade's heart jumped suddenly, and her expression immediately became incredible. As a companion for many years, she instantly understood what Orochimaru meant. Do you really think Shintaku was only 9 years old? What do you mean? Tsunade stared at Orochimaru, and a great uproar in her heart. What do you think? Orochimaru showed a meaningful expression and retracted his gaze. On the one hand, he is Nara Shintaku's companion, superficial master and apprentice, and collaborator, and on the other hand, he is also Tsunade's partner. Today, Orochimaru decided that it was time to reveal something to Tsunade. I didn't say it before, just because I wanted to see it happen. In Orochimaru's opinion, with Nara's knowledge and skills, Tsunade can be extraordinary and gain a long life and powerful power even if she gets a little bit of it. In other words, surpass ordinary humans. Since she has surpassed humans, the marriage, age gap, values, etc. under human concepts are no longer applicable. Therefore, Orochimaru doesn't think it's a bad thing for Tsunade to follow an old monster. He thinks it's a great thing that falls from the sky. Impossible. How is it possible? Orochimaru must be joking. Tsunade was confused and bit her lips unconsciously. She understood what Orochimaru meant. It was because she understood that she felt flustered. In the middle of the battlefield. No wonder you dared to stop me alone. It turns out that you are a strong man. I actually misjudged you. Uchiha Madara's expression became solemn, staring at Nara. I can't believe that among the younger generation of Konoha, there will be such a strong young man like you. I guess you collected the 9-tailed beasts, too. Uchiha Madara said, releasing the power of the Rinnegan. Boom! He suddenly stretched out his arm and opened his palm towards Nara Shintaku. It just so happens that I'm looking for you. Universal pull. Boom. An overwhelming gravitational force was released from Madara's hand. At the same time, Uchiha Madara's body suddenly clapped in a circle. The dry muscles were all restored to fullness, as if returning to the time of youth, and the body was full of powerful defenses. Shura Road physical strengthening. No one can resist this move. Uchiha Madara smiled, as long as I catch him, I can use the power of human road and hungry Kidō to control him. That's right. As long as I catch him. Uchiha Madara's thoughts paused, and his expression became surprised. The huge gravitational force fell on Nara Shintaku, as if it didn't exist, and didn't make the young man move a step. Not only that. The things around the young man. The ninja tools, gravel, dust, etc. were not affected and were still scattered on the ground. Episode 92, Refining Uchiha Madara into a Puppet. What happened? My universal pull failed? Uchiha Madara's face flashed with confusion. Universal pull? Nara Shintaku chuckled, stretched out his hand and bent his fingers, and flicked them lightly. Is it special? Pop. With the flick of his finger, the gravity of universal pull was broken like a bubble, and it instantly collapsed and disappeared. Uchiha Madara groaned and squinted his eyes in pain. His expression changed completely, and he said in a lost voice, "Impossible. This is the power of Rinnegan that is superior to all eye techniques. Why did you break it?" Uchiha Madara was horrified at this moment. In his perception, the power of universal pull was like a splash of water, hitting a copper wall, and it collapsed and shattered in an instant. But how is this possible? Gravity is invisible and immaterial. Why can this young man in front of him break the invisible and immaterial gravity? What happened just now? The people around were also shocked. I don't understand it at all. It seems that one of Uchiha Madara's techniques was shattered by Shintaku-kun? Not far away. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes, his expression was uncertain. Really, shattered the Rinnegan's eye technique? It seems so. Minato nodded in shock. Shattered the eye power? The third Hokage was surprised. Can this be done? In the cognition of ninjas. The eye technique, illusion technique, and other Inton nature transformation techniques are not physical. Intangible and intangible, they cannot be touched. It can only be effectively resisted by disrupting the flow of chakra, or using the same Inton nature chakra. But Nara Shintaku directly shattered the invisible and intangible technique? Your era is over, Madara. Nara Shintaku chuckled and didn't explain. In his vision, the so-called pupil technique was just a ball of energy. Since it was energy, it couldn't hurt him. Because he, Nara Shintaku, was the most condensed energy. Invulnerable to all attacks. Any low-level energy would shatter when touched by him. Universal Pull's pupil power was like this. It's time to end. Nara's eyes became hazy, as if he had left reality and was staring at the void. He stretched out his finger and flicked it gently. It was as if he was turning something. But in front of him, there was nothing. Swish. From a perspective that ordinary people cannot see, the various energies flowing in an orderly manner around him suddenly boiled up as Nara flicked his finger, like hot oil poured on a flame. Boom! Boom! Energy of various natures collided with each other and stirred each other, forming an indescribable terrifying storm. Bad wind. Nara gently uttered the name of this move. This is the use of, for infinite quantities. What? Uchiha Madara widened his eyes. His Rinnegan did not see anything, but he instinctively felt uneasy. Susanoo. He subconsciously performed a defensive move. A layer of azure light emerged, condensing into a huge figure around him. The figure was strong and covered with armor, like a powerful martial god descending. But it had no effect. The surging energy storm swept through Susanoo like a plowing house. Swish. Susanoo suddenly stagnated and collapsed directly. The pupil power that constructed its body was completely annihilated and washed away by the energy storm. Susanoo disappeared. The ninjas watching the battle around were all shocked. So fast. Mitaku-kun just moved his fingers, and the opponent was gone. Susanoo didn't even show up completely. Uchiha Madara is going to lose. Everyone present was excited. Not far away. Jiraiya was also excited, but more complicated. He murmured, even Susanoo was easily defeated? This is the ultimate eye technique of Mangekyo Sharingan. Minato's expression was also complicated. "Mitaku-kun, you have surpassed Shodai," the third Hokage exclaimed. Puff! Uchiha Madara was also blown by the bad wind, and a ball of blood spurted out of his mouth. His old body was instantly riddled with holes. Cells were damaged, blood dried up, vitality was worn out, organs failed, skeletons were broken. It was as if he had instantly turned into a scrapped machine. A slight touch would destroy it. What a joke! Susanoo is the strongest defense. Uchiha Madara looked horrified and looked at Nara Mitaku in horror. What did you do? Why did my Susanoo disappear? A flash of light. Nara Mitaku appeared in front of Uchiha Madara and laughed. The strongest defense? It's ridiculous. Your vision is always limited to the so-called bloodline limit. While speaking, a hand was pressed on Uchiha Madara's forehead. Instantly, the divine power refined the natural energy and turned into a hair-sized light thread. The light thread pierced into Uchiha Madara's brain. Ranjuang Tiangue Kai. K.R. Uchiha Madara was shocked and angry, and wanted to curse. But as the light thread pierced into his brain, his expression immediately became dull. At this moment, countless light threads penetrated into Uchiha Madara's brain and even his soul. The Ranjuang Tiangue of the Quincy showed an extremely terrifying effect in the hands of Nara Shintaku. In the blink of an eye, Uchiha Madara's body, spirit, thinking, emotions, soul, chakra, etc. were all controlled by Nara Shintaku. He completely became a puppet. Found it. Nara Shintaku's eyes moved slightly, and he calmly withdrew his hand. As he withdrew his palm, a ball of high-quality chakra was extracted together. This ball of high-quality chakra carries a weak will. The will carries an unruly momentum. Indra Chakra. I see. Although he has divine power, his will has not been fully sublimated and cannot be completely placed in chakra, so he has not gained immortality. Nara took a quick look and immediately understood the situation of Indra and Ashura. This explained his doubts. Indra and Ashura, their chakras can be reincarnated and immortal, so it makes no sense for them to die. Didn't they extract chakra themselves? Now Nara understood that the two brothers had never practiced or explored their own power, but just used chakra instinctively. Therefore, their wills could not be sublimated. So after death, only part of their will was reincarnated with chakra. Even this part of the reincarnated will was not done by themselves, but was just a natural instinct. From this point of view, the situation of six paths is worse than I thought. Nara Shintaku's eyes flashed with a thoughtful look. The death of the Sage of Six Paths is also a strange thing. They can use yin-yang release to split the 10 tails chakra and create immortal tailed beasts, but they will die of old age? Isn't this funny? Even Orochimaru can live for thousands of years now. You, the Sage of Six Paths, can only stay in the pure king's court in the form of souls? It turns out that the key step is wrong. No, or rather, you can't take that step for some reason. Nara Shintaku muttered. The energy that Sage of Six Paths puts their will on is chakra. But chakra has an owner. This owner is not Six Paths. In other words, there has long been a will placed in chakra, smelted and sublimated. How can Sage of Six Paths place their will on the energy of an owner for the second time? This is no different from erasing the will in chakra. But even gods of the same level find it extremely difficult to kill a god, let alone Sage of Six Paths who are not gods. This is probably the biggest reason for his death. That makes sense. Nara Shintaku's eyes moved slightly, and he no longer called Sage of Six Paths him instead of him. The above thoughts only lasted for a moment. Not even half a second had passed. Don't worry, everyone, it's safe. Nara Shintaku stopped thinking, smiled, and looked around. I have subdued Uchiha Madara. He can't threaten you anymore. Hearing this, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. Great. I really thought I was going to die today. Fortunately, Shintaku-kun is here. Yes, Shintaku was the backbone of our day. Everyone smiled. Only Jiraiya and Namake's Minato changed their expressions when they heard these words. Go back. The third Hokage patted the shoulders of the two inside. Swoosh. In the field, a flash of light appeared. Nara Shintaku took Uchiha Madara and lost. Ah. We won. No need to hide, we are safe. The enemy has been defeated. Everyone come out. From the battlefield, cheers spread quickly. Hokage building. In the office, an Umbu came to deliver a message. Fourth generation, Shintaku-kun 1. The enemy Uchiha Madara was captured alive. He has been taken to the Technical Development Department. Getting the news. The senior executives in the office were in an uproar. So fast? They looked surprised and looked at each other in astonishment. Because they did not watch the battle up close, in their eyes, they only saw a huge figure flashing in the distance through the French windows, and it disappeared as soon as it appeared. They recognized it as Susanoo. I was wondering why Susanoo disappeared. Now I heard the report and was shocked. It turned out that it had been solved. Fourth generation adults are right. Ah, Shintaku-kun is really that powerful. It's amazing. He's only 9 years old. He's so powerful at the age of 9. Won't he be so powerful in the future? Everyone talked and their hearts beat. It seems that they can see the future of Konoha unifying the ninja world and shocking the world. And such a future is very close to them. Maybe they can see it in 5 or 6 years. 9 years old? Tsunade folded her arms and leaned against the wall on one side with a complicated expression. It would be great if he was really 9 years old. In front of the floor-to-ceiling window, Orochimaru looked up, with a pair of golden vertical pupils, showing a look of amazement. Is that the power of God? Erasing the pupil power of Rinnegan, erasing the existence of Susanoo, and finally refining Uchiha Madara into a living puppet as if catching an ant. That's the famous Uchiha Madara. Who in the current ninja world would not tremble in their heart when hearing this name? But in front of Nara Shintaku, it was so weak that it could not withstand a single blow. But what was extracted from Uchiha Madara in the end? Orochimaru fell into deep thought, as if it was a very high quality. Chakra? In that chakra, it seems that there is an ancient will that has nothing to do with Uchiha Madara. It is that thing that makes me feel threatened. Orochimaru licked his lips. Somewhat looking forward to going to the Technology Development Department after get off work to study the captured Uchiha Madara. Technology Development Department. In the hall. The nine-tailed beasts lay on the table board, watching the ninjas in the technology department running around anxiously. What are they doing? I don't know. It seems that they became like this after the urgent ringing of the bell. Idiot, that's a warning signal from humans. What does it mean? There should be an enemy invasion. Several tailed beasts gathered together and whispered. They showed malicious smiles on their faces. Ho, humans just like to fight among themselves. It's better to destroy Konoha, and no one will care about us. Yeah, it would be great if we could get out. I'm tired of staying in this technical department. Swoosh. Suddenly, a ray of light appeared. Nara Shintaku appeared, holding a dull-looking Uchiha Madara in his hand, quietly watching the nine-tailed beasts running out. After their power was sealed and they became pocket-sized. The status of the tailed beasts was reduced from strategic weapons to mascots of the technical department. Running around all day long. As long as they don't run out and don't enter the prohibited area, no one will care about them. Nara Shintaku. The nine-tailed beasts were frightened by the sudden appearance of the figure. Many guys were a little furious. The next moment, when they saw the Uchiha in Nara Shintaku's hand, they screamed and almost peed. Uchiha Madara. Why is this guy not dead yet? Wait, look at his eyes. Impossible, how could it be a Rinnegan? Run. I don't want to be sealed again. Throw Kurama out, that guy likes to use Kurama as a mount. Get out. Bang. Nara Shintaku was speechless and swept his arms. Quiet. The surrounding energy surged and turned into a shock wave, sweeping the nine-tailed beasts to the ground. Duh! The nine-tailed beasts sat on the ground with confused expressions. They looked at Uchiha Madara again and finally noticed that something seemed wrong. Why does he seem dead? No, he is being controlled. Hiss, who did it? Who else could it be? The nine-tailed beasts paused and looked at Nara Shintaku in surprise. You? You solved Uchiha Madara? Are you so strong? The nine-tailed beast stared at Nara Shintaku with wide eyes. As they watched, they suddenly felt something was wrong. Nara Shintaku actually gave them a feeling of the six paths back then. You feel it too? Yes, okay. Yeah. It seems it's not my illusion. I feel he can kill us completely? I feel the same way. Hiss, what did this guy and Orochimaru research on us? The nine-tailed beasts exchanged glances, in doubt. Don't run around. Nara Shintaku saw through what they were thinking at a glance and waved his hand casually. Time and space shift. The nine-tailed beasts were sent back to the laboratory. At the same time, Uchiha Madara was also sent to another laboratory and soaked in a nutrient tank. And that guy, he hid so far away. Nara Shintaku touched his chin, and his figure flashed and disappeared out of thin air. The next moment, he appeared outside the village, 1 kilometer away. This place looked ordinary, without any abnormality. But deep in the soil that ordinary people could not see, a dark mucus was running wildly. Madara actually lost. What a joke, that's the top-level eye technique 10-10 Rinnegan. There is definitely something wrong with this Nara Shintaku. Black Setsu panicked and ran away wildly. Bang! Suddenly, it hit the soil in front of it and was bounced back. Black Setsu's face changed immediately. Its earth style failed. The next moment, a huge force surged from the surroundings, like a big hand grabbing it firmly, grabbing it from the soil to the ground. This. Black Setsu was horrified. What kind of skill is this? Not only can it not sense any chakra, but it also contains the attributes of time and space, so it has no way to escape. VR. After being caught out of the ground, Black Setsu was shocked to see Nara Shintaku. I don't know what's going on. Looking at Nara Shintaku, it feels like seeing its mother Otsutsuki Kagaya. Am I crazy? Why do I feel that this human is as powerful as my mother? Episode 93, Refining the Priesthood and Confronting Tsunade. Black Setsu was in a state of confusion. Impossible. A ninja who practices chakra will never reach the level of his mother. Even if the two sons of Yui were reincarnated, they would only have the power of the universe, which is only the level of 6 paths. Black Setsu's mind was in a state of confusion. On his face, he deliberately showed an expression of obedience and flattery. My lord, as you can see, I am just a part of Uchiha Madara's will that has been separated, and I don't have any fighting ability. Black Setsu usually uses his fake identity. This identity successfully deceived Uchiha Madara, and I think it can deceive the next person. Swish. Before he finished speaking, the natural energy around him suddenly condensed and turned into hundreds of light threads. Black Setsu's face froze slightly. This kid is really cruel, he doesn't listen to me and just takes action? Forget it, anyway, my essence is very high and will not be affected by ninjutsu, so I can do whatever this kid wants. Black Setsu didn't struggle, thinking silently. At most, he sealed me. You are thinking that I can only seal you, right? Nara Shintaku said with a smile. Black Setsu was shocked. How does this kid know what it is thinking? Naive, the third son of Otsutsuki Kagaya. Nara Shintaku closed his palms, and the surrounding light instantly pierced into Black Setsu's body. Wait. Black Setsu's pupils shrank sharply, and his expression was horrified. It didn't understand how the human in front of it knew its true identity. But it was too late. The light pierced into its body, instantly invading its will, thoughts, energy flow, body structure, and everything else. In the blink of an eye, Black Setsu's expression became dull. The second puppet of the random heaven puppet was born. Nara Shintaku stretched out his hand. Black Setsu's body suddenly curled up and turned into a dark ball like a truth-seeking ball, the size of a ping-pong ball, and fell into Nara Shintaku's hands. Whoosh! Nara Shintaku turned around, and the light dispersed. The next moment, he took Black Setsu back to the Technology Development Department. Technology Development Department. In a private laboratory, Orochimaru put his hands behind his back and looked at Uchiha Madara in the nutrient tank with admiration. Especially the Rinnegan in Uchiha Madara's eyes. Orochimaru shook his head. It's obviously the power of the god realm, but it appears immortal. Uchiha Madara, it turns out that you are just an ordinary person after all. The reason why it is powerful is that it is innate. Instead of developing, researching, and practicing a path by yourself. Orochimaru felt a sense of disillusionment. Historical documents and various materials in the past made Uchiha Madara so powerful? But now it seems they are just a group of reckless men. If I were to choose a pair of Rinnegan that suits me, I could save at least 50 years when I enter the realm of God. Orochimaru sighed repeatedly. The Rinnegan he planted with the Tree of Life was tainted with too much power. Not pure enough. It can only be used as a reference and cannot be used directly. Forcibly integrating it into his own power system would pollute his own purity. You got off work so early? In the laboratory, Nara Shintaku's voice suddenly came. Huh? Orochimaru was startled and turned his head to look. Nara Shintaku came at some point and he didn't notice it at all. The realm of God. Orochimaru was filled with envy. Although he could reach this level more than 100 years later, he still couldn't stop his envy and desire at this moment. The people below are very motivated. I can handle the affairs by sending a clone. Orochimaru said. Really? Nara asked casually, and Akut threw the black ball in his hand. What is it? Orochimaru caught it, looked down, and his eyes froze. A ritual life. What a delicate structure, almost no trace of rewriting, much better than the tailed beast. Is this your work? Orochimaru was more and more surprised. This black ball, all the rituals fit together perfectly, with a sense of precision and beauty, has reached the pinnacle of design. 1 point more or 1 point less will not do. Now it is the most perfect state. No, it is the third son of Otsutsuki Kagaya. Nara smiled and shook his head. Orochimaru nodded subconsciously. Oh, Inoki Kagaya's? He was shocked halfway through. What did you say? Otsutsuki Kagaya? The third son of the one on the moon? Orochimaru's expression became unbelievable. Of course. Nara Shintaku nodded and said leisurely, he is the master of chakra, an immortal god. Isn't it normal to leave some means of resurrection? This third child is the life that he secretly created when he was sealed. He has been wandering in the ninja world, guiding the fusion of Uchiha and Senju's power, awakening Rinnegan, and finally collecting tailed beasts to revive the sacred tree. Orochimaru was shocked and looked at the black ball in his hand in horror. This is actually a secret hand of resurrection of a god. Instantly, Orochimaru's eyes became hot. If he studies this secret hand, maybe it will help him on his way to becoming a god? I have already cast the Ranzhuang Tiangue on them. You also know this technique. You can try to extract the memories of the two of them. It should be helpful to you. Nara pointed at the black ball and the nutrient tank next to it. CCFH. Good. Orochimaru was very surprised, and his eyes seemed to light up. He couldn't wait to start. He walked directly to the nutrient tank and cast the Luanqua Tianque bed on the Uchiha Madara inside. The stone tablet under the Nanga shrine? Oh, it's actually a specially done stone, no different from a ninja tool. Using different levels of eye techniques, you can see different contents. I see, the stone tablet records the conditions for opening the Mangekyo Sharingan and obtaining eternal light. And the Izanagi technique? No wonder it has never been lost. Infinite Tsukuyami? Let the world fall into an eternal dream? What an interesting plan, but too stupid. If this technique is useful, why don't the Sage of Six Paths use it themselves, but keep it for their descendants with reduced experience to use? It's obvious that there is a problem. The power of Senju and Uchiha merges to lead to the Tensei? Gee. From the emotional color of the words, it should not refer to the Rinnegan, but the two clans joining forces. Orochimaru read the memory of Uchiha Madara with interest. Beside him, Nara Shintaku was also thinking. When he used the Ranzo Tenkui, he also read the memories of Uchiha Madara and Black Setsu. At this time, he was sorting out Black Setsu's memories. Have the remaining gods gradually died out over the past 1,000 years? Nara was looking for something that interested him. After entering the realm of gods, what should he do next? He had no idea for the time being. Therefore, he wanted to gain experience from other pioneers. Before the sacred tree came, this planet gave birth to many gods. Those gods ruled the earth for more than 10,000 years. But now there is only one dragon vein, a god of the underworld, a Buddha of the fire temple, a Shinigami, 4 gods, leaving some traces. All the other gods have disappeared. Nara felt a little dreadful. It is undeniable that many members of the Otsutsuki clan are useless. Especially Kagaya, who is the most useless of all. As 10 Tails, as a god, he was sealed by his 2 sons. Even after resurrection, he was sealed again by the reincarnations of his 2 grandsons. It's so stupid. But Nara Shintaku will not underestimate the Otsutsuki clan. The original Otsutsuki must be an extremely powerful god. He brought the entire family to a very high level. Any member of the family can rely on the sacred tree to cross the void and devour the planets recklessly without any natural enemies. And that Otsutsuki Shiba is even beyond the dimension. Nara Shintaku was secretly shocked. This is an incredibly powerful family. Well, in Black Zetsu's memory, there are still some traces of gods in the shinobi era. Most of them are entrenched in one place, and the laws, attributes, and energy characteristics of that area are consistent with their own concepts. No, the area is not the point. The point is that the gods hold high the concept, which will resonate with the world and condense a unique priesthood. With the priesthood, Ming can accept the offering. The so-called offering is to use the wisdom of all living beings to promote the derivation and deepening of exclusive concepts and expand the size of the gods. As the size increases, the power of the gods will also increase, and they will rule more areas. Nara Shintaku's eyes flashed with surprise. For example, if his, all things, is condensed into a priesthood, it can derive multiple lower powers such as learning, imitation, evolution, adaptation, and change. At the same time, it can also be deepened into 10 directions, infinite, return to the origin, universe, and Dakian. This kind of derivation and deepening is the method of God's level. Just like Maramara fruit, by deepening the concept and developing the temperature of the flame to tens of thousands of degrees, it will be lava fruit, and the upper and lower levels will be reversed. So the next step for God is to condense the priesthood. Then derive and deepen its own concepts. Occupy more ecological niches? Nara Shintaku nodded lightly, he understood what to do next. In Black Zetsu's memory, all the ancient gods were promoted in this way. However, it would be best to find a model reference for how to do it specifically. Nara Shintaku's eyes flashed with thought. Not long after, Orochimaru was very excited after reading the memories of Black Zetsu and Uchiha Madara. I never thought that the two sons of the Sage of Six Paths still have chakras and reincarnate from generation to generation. If that's the case, then this Black Zetsu is also a fool. Orochimaru looked at the black ball in his hand and smiled sarcastically. Both sons are reincarnated, not to mention Six Paths himself? With the power of the universe, there are countless ways to survive. I'm afraid he is still in the world. Shaking his head, Orochimaru threw the small ball that Black Zetsu turned into back to Nara. After reading the memory, the value of Black Zetsu was exhausted. Puff! Nara caught the black ball and gently squeezed it, and Black Zetsu turned into powder. This perfect ritual creature, the third son of Otsutsuki Kagaya, was killed so easily. Orochimaru's eyelids jumped. Isn't it too easy to erase? He gave the black ball to Nara because he really wanted Nara to get rid of Black Zetsu. Although Orochimaru could do it himself, it would be troublesome. Black Zetsu's structure is too precise, like a house with deep piles in the ground, difficult to destroy. But you handled it too quickly. Orochimaru was shocked. Is the god realm so strong? After taking a step, will it be the ultimate transformation? Can it crush everything below the god level? Orochimaru's heart kept fluctuating. But he didn't know. The god realm is confined to the characteristic of invulnerability to all laws. Any energy without the will of the smelting is just a breeze in the eyes of the god, which can be easily dispersed. Stepping into this realm is like ascending to heaven, standing on the clouds all of a sudden. No matter how strong the mortal creatures are, they can only crawl on the ground. Orochimaru was about to say something. Next, Nara Shintaku flicked his finger, and a stream of extremely pure chakra shot out. What is this? Orochimaru caught it in a panic, as if he was holding a fragile treasure, Indra's chakra. He widened his eyes and looked at the chakra in his hand with great surprise. Read Black Zetsu's memory. He knew that the two sons of the Sage of Six Paths had chakras that were constantly reincarnated. Uchiha Madara was the reincarnation bearer of this generation. Indra can be called a demigod. Nara Shintaku nodded and said, "You should be able to get a lot of inspiration by studying his chakra." This is too precious. Orochimaru was so excited that he trembled all over. It's not for you. Nara Shintaku smiled and explained, you can keep it for 3 days at most, and then let it continue to reincarnate. Why? Orochimaru looked up in surprise. 3 days was not enough for him to comprehend the secret of demigod. His father is still alive. Nara pointed to the ground helplessly. Besides, Sage of Six Paths is full of kindness to humans. Do you want to study his son in front of him? Orochimaru calmed down. He almost forgot that Sage of Six Paths is likely to exist. Now that Nara confirmed it, he dared not go too far with this chakra. It's the son of Six Paths, it's really hard to start with. Orochimaru sighed regretfully, turned around, and walked out, saying, there are only 3 days, I have to hurry up. Walked to the door of the laboratory. Orochimaru suddenly stopped, turned around and said, I almost forgot one thing. What's the matter? Nara asked. Tsunade is looking for you. Orochimaru smiled and said, and left. Tsunade? Nara was startled and exhaled softly. The three girls sent by Cloud Shinobi were all outstanding in appearance and good in figure, and they were trained by Uchiha Makoto to be obedient. He was a little reluctant to leave. It seems that we have to show our cards. Nara's mind moved and he guessed a lot. At night. Konoha Village, Senju Clan. In Tsunade's private hot spring. A graceful snow-white body, lazily soaking in hot water. Mist steaming. The contours of the bumps and curves, looming, added to the temptation. Sure enough, it's comfortable to take a hot spring bath after a busy day. Tsunade stretched, a pair of plump trembling, like jelly, full of elasticity. Suddenly, Tsunade frowned and blocked her body with both hands. Hey, I didn't invite you to join me in the hot springs. She looked sharply to the side. A young man appeared at some point and was soaking in the same pool with her. Just treat it as me coming uninvited. Nara said indifferently. Tsunade clenched her fists in anger. I want to punch him 10 times. But considering that she is naked now, if she does it, it will probably become a welfare. Tsunade made a note of this. We'll settle it later. What do you want from me? She asked unhappily. It's not a big deal. Nara put on a serious expression and said, I just think that our relationship should go a step further. Go a step further? Tsunade laughed as if she heard a big joke. Ha ha ha, just you? A 9-year-old kid? You could actually have ulterior motives towards your sister. I'll beat you. Tsunade sneered at Nara with contempt in her eyes. It was like a mature older sister, facing the confession of a childish younger brother, with a look of disdain on her face. I'm only 9 years old in this life. Nara looked at her calmly. Tsunade's expression froze. Her eyes wandered, and her mood was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, splashing panic ripples. Episode 94, Souls Merge, Makoto and Tsunade open their hearts. Tsunade's expression froze. Her eyes wandered, and her mood was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, splashing panic ripples. Originally, she just wanted to test Nara. Unexpectedly, Nara directly won. You, what nonsense are you talking about? Tsunade turned her head, her face slightly red. Even if it's nonsense, Sister Tsunade is willing to believe me. Nara smiled and said, at this point, will Sister Tsunade still refuse me? Tsunade lowered her head and pursed her lips. Do you really want to refuse? Nara pretended to be disappointed and pretended to leave. Okay, I'm sorry for disturbing you. Tsunade panicked, and hurriedly stood up and pulled Nara away. This pull, she realized that Nara didn't use any force at all, just made a gesture of getting up and walking. You! Tsunade realized that she was deceived and was furious. Since Sister Tsunade doesn't want me to leave, then I'll stay. Nara's evil plan succeeded, and he sat next to Tsunade. Tsunade looked flustered and backed away. But every time she backed away, Nara took a step closer. Finally, they were in a corner, with no room to retreat. Tsunade blushed, huddled in the corner, with her hands in front of her, staring at Nara with a warning look. But this look had no deterrent power. Like a little kitten, it only made people feel cute. Nara smiled slightly and hugged her. Poof. Tsunade just snorted and turned her head away, but she didn't refuse Nara's hug. Finally I can hug you, Sister Tsunade. Nara took Tsunade's hand and interlocked their fingers. It's a pity that there is a problem blocking us now. What's the problem? Tsunade looked up quickly. I am no longer a human being. Nara said. Tsunade, ? Nara stretched out a hand and gently touched Tsunade's forehead. Whoosh! A clear light fell into Tsunade's mind. The clear light contained a lot of practice information, clearly dividing a path of transformation and promotion from low to high. Ninja Kage level, Ninja God tailed beast level, life transformation, immortal God. Nara confessed directly. He has reached the level of God, separated from the mundane world, and stood in the sky. 22 in other words. He has no body and no reproductive desire. Nara's essence has broken the boundaries of the body, and Tianhua has become energy. So, his current human form. It can be understood that it is just a fabricated face, not the real him. Really? Tsunade was shocked and looked at Nara in disbelief. When did you become so strong? Didn't you eat those 3 Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi's Terumi a few days ago? At this point, Tsunade slapped Nara's shoulder in anger. Bang, bang, bang. Each palm was used with all his strength, shaking the pool and stirring the hot spring water. Duh! Nara felt guilty and had to keep silent. Let Tsunade slap him. I get angry when I talk about it. So many women. So many women. So many women. Where did you put me, your sister? Tsunade was still not satisfied with the slap, and couldn't help but clench his fist and slammed it on Nara's chest. Clang! 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 The strange punch fell, as if it was on a piece of solid iron. Not only did it not cause any damage, but it also swollen Tsunade's hand. Asshole! Can't you just let me beat you comfortably? Tsunade was furious and punched Nara's stomach. Nara smiled awkwardly and quickly adjusted his stomach to feel like normal flesh and blood. Bang! Tsunade finally felt satisfied with this punch. The force penetrated and went straight to the inside of the sky. Ha! Tsunade finally put down her fist with satisfaction. Don't be angry anymore. Nara Shintaku said with a smile, if you are not satisfied, keep hitting me until you calm down. Get lost. Tsunade rolled her eyes, with your body, I'm afraid you will hurt my hand. Although she said so. But Nara Shintaku knew that she calmed down, and quickly hugged Tsunade. Tsunade pushed a few times, but failed to push her away. But she just glared at Nara Shintaku in anger and let him hug her. The two of them had a good time. For a long time. Nara Shintaku said carefully, but Sister Tsunade, there is still a problem between us. What problem? Tsunade asked. I am no longer human. To the gods, the human form is just a disguise. Nara paused and said, if we are reproducing, there is only one way, spiritual intercourse. Tsunade looked up and blushed at Nara, what do you mean? It means the fusion of souls and spirits. Nara looked into her eyes and said sincerely, this is a deeper communication than the body. The most secret thoughts of both parties will be known by each other. But because my essence is higher, when our souls intersect, you can only vaguely feel me, and only I can read your thoughts unilaterally. Tsunade frowned when she heard this. Soul intercourse, opening up all the secrets in the heart, is a very difficult thing. Even for lovers who are in love, not one pair out of 10,000 can do it. Then what are you waiting for? Tsunade did not hesitate for long, raised her beautiful eyes, and looked at Nara frankly, I am like this, I will follow you for the rest of my life. Can I get off the bus now? Besides, I don't have any secrets that cannot be seen by others. Tsunade's decisiveness and unrestrainedness surprised Nara. Why are you still standing there? Tsunade urged. Actually, there is a small problem. Nara said thoughtfully, because my essence is higher than yours, when the souls merge, you will be affected by my power to a certain extent, similar to the chakra of the tailed beast, eroding the Jinchuriki and becoming a tailed beast. Are the side effects big? Tsunade asked. Not big, but you will like me more, rely on me, and love me more, and have a high degree of recognition of me in your heart. Nara did not hide it and brought out the tray. Will it make me lose myself? Tsunade asked again. No, it will only passively increase your favorability towards me. Nara shook his head. That's no problem. Tsunade waved his hand with a generous attitude. Nara Shintaku didn't hesitate and put his forehead against Tsunade's forehead. Since Tsunade said it was okay, as a man, he couldn't be shy. Dong. The moment the foreheads touched. Whoosh. A light came on. The light was like the sun, illuminating the entire hot spring. In the light, Tsunade felt a big sun embracing him warmly. This sun was Nara Shintaku. They abandoned their bodies, language and words, and communicated directly from heart to heart. The next day, the Senju clan, in Tsunade's room. Tsunade looked at the ceiling, her eyes lost. The feeling of soul fusion was more wonderful than she had imagined. It was as if breaking the boundaries of form, freely communicating with anything. Even dead things could communicate. It seemed that in that state, there was no difference between life and death for everything. Life and death were just different states. What a magical experience. Tsunade murmured, is this the perspective from which gods see the world? No wonder in myths and legends, gods are always high above. It turns out that they really stand at a transcendental angle and look down on the earth. With the power of Nara Shintaku, she briefly experienced that transcendental perspective. Tsunade had an urge to continue to experience the transcendental state, but the stinging head told her to stop. The information, perspective, and thinking of that state are not what she can bear now. Forcing to understand will only burn her brain. And if she does it too many times in a short period of time, she will become a vassal of Nara Shintaku. Although it is not impossible. But Tsunade has her own pride. She has been moving forward steadily on the road of medical ninjutsu. I have given you the way to the path of God. Nara Shintaku said in a gentle voice, with your talent, you will be promoted to the realm of God sooner or later. He and Tsunade's soul are fused, so he naturally knows Tsunade's thoughts. Having your own ideals and pursuits is a pair of pants. Nara Shintaku is also willing to support Tsunade. Well. Tsunade responded lazily, enjoying the peace of the moment. Until noon. The two of them got up leisurely, had lunch, and then went back to work. At the same time, the news that Nara Shintaku stayed in Tsunade's room last night quickly spread among the Senju clan and spread to the top leaders of Konoha. Everyone knows that the main wife of Nara Shintaku's family is in place. After hearing this news, I don't know how many Senju people were moved to tears. Great Tsunade, you finally took action. If you don't make a move, it's fine. Once you make a move, you've firmly secured the position of the queen. Good job, Princess Tsunade. From now on, I and Nara are family. In my lifetime, I can see the bloodline of Hashirama-sama and pass it on. Tsunade was speechless after hearing these voices. But there is no more embarrassment than before. Since the development of physical potion, the average life expectancy of ninjas has directly increased to 120 years. What is the concept of 120 years old? If you give birth to a baby at the age of 15 years is a generation. 120 years old can span 8 generations. 8 generations living under one roof. After the lifespan is extended, many past concepts will change. For example, Tsunade and Nara. On the surface, there is a difference of almost 20 years, and no one talks behind their backs. Nara clan land. After leaving Tsunade's house, Nara did not go to the technical development department, but returned to his home. Welcome home, Master 4. Nara's eyelids twitched as he entered the room. Mabui, Wooden Golem, Samui, Terumi Mei, 4 girls with shy and embarrassed expressions, blushing faces, wearing miniskirts, stood side by side in the living room. Bowed to him. And the 4 maids' outfits were all different styles. Each had its own merits, dazzling. How is it? And the culprit, Uchiha Mikoto, wearing a cheongsam, revealing a pair of slender white legs, said excitedly while sitting on the sofa. With a proud expression of seeking praise. You are really amazing, Mikoto. Nara said sincerely. He really admired Mikoto. 4. The girls who were sent as gifts and were obviously resentful were actually controlled by Mikoto and dared not breathe. But I came to see you today. Nara glanced at the 4 girls and looked away regretfully. Come up with me. As he said that, he went upstairs. Mikoto resisted and pouted. It's rare for me to dress up the 4 of them like this. Really, don't try it? Maid costumes. Mikoto thought Nara's target was her, and tried to refuse. But Nara didn't even look back and went straight into the room. Alas, my life is so hard. Mikoto lamented, jumped off the sofa aggrievely, and followed into the room upstairs. The 4 maids in the living room breathed a sigh of relief. In the room. After closing the door, Nara waved. Mikoto sat in Nara's arms, her curvy and tight body pressed directly against Nara's. I have something important to tell you today. Nara didn't waste words, and pointed his finger at Uchiha Mikoto's forehead. Whoosh! A ray of light escaped into her mind and turned into a lot of information. This information was no different from Tsunade's. He briefly introduced the realm of the path of practice, from mortals to life transformation, to the immortal realm of gods. Then he showed that Nara was already a god. In the future, if we want to do things, we can only use the way of soul fusion, but due to the huge gap in power, we should have fused with each other. It will become Nara, who can read all of Makoto's thoughts and secrets unilaterally. Similarly, it will also make Mikoto admire, be obsessed with, and love Nara more psychologically. All the situations were revealed. There was no concealment. TSK, you don't even want to let me go, and you're pretending to tell me something? Mikoto rolled her eyes and said speechlessly, I know so many of your secrets, and I'm so tightly bound to you, how can I leave you? Soul fusion, right? Hurry up. I'm not as ambitious as Sister Tsunade, so I'll just cling to your thighs and be your holy spirit in the future. Mikoto smiled and took the initiative to put her forehead on Nara Shintaku. The Holy Spirit she mentioned is the two paths of believing in God. Not all lives have the potential and opportunity to achieve immortality. But relying on a god, the immortal species of the tailed beast level can also share the glory of immortality. There are two ways to rely on. One is to follow God, that is, Tsunade's path. From God himself, he will practice, but because the path is affected by the power of God, he will eventually get closer and closer to God, and the final condensed concept will become the concept supplement of that God. The second is the Holy Spirit, that is, Uchiha Makoto's choice. Believing in life wholeheartedly, as if sacrificing oneself, regarding the path of God as one's own path, and the principles of God as direct principles. From some perspectives, the Holy Spirit is a kind of fanatic. Isn't this just a polite notice to you? Nara Shintaku smiled and pressed against Makoto's smooth forehead. Swish! Just like last night, a ray of light lit up. The light enveloped the entire villa. But strangely, people outside the villa could not see the light. After a long time, the light disappeared. In the living room, the four girls woke up from a dream, sorting out the information in their minds, and their expressions became complicated. Nara Shintaku is actually a god. And not the kind of god who is boasted, but a great god tier who really has powerful power and is eternal and immortal. As women of God, they are also fortunate to share the glory. As long as they don't betray and serve seriously. Being able to accompany Nara Shintaku and be immortal day by day. Everyone, just be at ease as his woman in the future. Samui thought it through and sighed, in the future, don't think about those things. The other three people couldn't help but remain silent. Immortal life and the village's mission. It's easy to make a choice between the two. Normally, no one would be stupid enough to risk their lives for the village's mission. They were given away as gifts. In other words, abandoned children. For abandoned children, still loyal to the previous village, aren't they stupid? Samui, you're right. It's time to make a choice. We've done enough for the village. The three nodded decisively. On the one hand, they felt the power of Nara Shintaku in the fusion of souls. On the other hand, it was also because of the fusion of souls that they unconsciously felt towards Nara Shintaku developed a liking for him and developed a love for him. For those who do not believe in gods, the fusion of human and god souls is no different from brainwashing. From the first time, it was the beginning of the physical and mental degradation, and eventually from the soul to the body, it was completely controlled by the gods. This is definitely an evil god behavior. But for those who take the initiative, this is a supreme honor, the ultimate grace. Episode 95. 70% stage reward. In the room. After two soul fusions, Makoto's face flushed, and she raised her plump and white long legs and stretched them out to Nara. Dear God, you seem to have watched me practice my toes many times just now? Hee, do you want to try my clever toes? I've been studying hard recently, and I'm very experienced. Looking at the white and tender feet stretched out, Nara's eyes lit up, and he grabbed them in his hands without hesitation and looked at them carefully. I saw the long arch of the foot and the slender ankle. The 10 toes were like pearls, round and plump, and moist and white. It's in accordance with the porridge etiquette. Nara exclaimed. What porridge etiquette? Don't worry about it. Oh. After a long time, Nara Shintaku left home and went to the technical development department. Originally, he didn't plan to go today. But when the souls were mingling just now, he learned a piece of information about Yitsong from Makoto's soul. I asked you to deal with her, I asked you to cure her, not to make her condition worse. When Nara Shintaku found out this information, he was speechless. Yitsong, who had always been normal, was only normal on the surface. The mental problem was not solved. Instead, it got worse in secret. What do you say? I like stubborn women, and I'm not interested in women who can be trained in a short time. Damn, you're plotting me like this behind my back. Yitsong actually believed it, pretending to be unyielding and wanting to receive more training. It's amazing, are you a pervert? You believed such an obvious lie? Nara Shintaku thinks that both Makoto and Yitsong are mentally ill. Of course, considering that it is Hokage world. It is normal for ninjas to have mental illnesses. If the soul fusion had not been discovered, I'm afraid it would have quietly exploded in the future. Nara Shintaku 710 twitched his mouth and came to the Technology Development Department. Technology Development Department. In front of the gate. A group of Sand Shinobi ninjas were released and walked out of the gate with bright eyes. Everyone's face showed an expression as if they were in another world. It's the sun. I haven't breathed the air outside for a long time. I never thought there would be a day to come out. Yeah, I thought I would stay in there until I died in this life. This group of Sand Shinobi ninjas were captured in the first war between Konoha and Sand Shinobi. They have been imprisoned until now. They were transferred to Umbu before, and later because of the research on the Tree of Life, they were transferred back to the Technology Development Department. They were drawn blood and punctured every day. Now, they have finally exhausted their value and have been abandoned by the Technology Department. Out of humanitarian principles, Orochimaru released them with pity, and they were not consumed as materials. Finally out. Luosha clenched his fists, his expression firm, and said to himself, sure enough, as long as you don't give up, you can always see hope. Now Tsuchikage is half useless, and the older generation of ninjas are almost dead. After I go back, there will be almost no constraints. I can get a large number of supporters with just a wave of my arm. Luosha couldn't help but feel excited. He was very fortunate that he had kept hope during the more than 1 year he was imprisoned. Now he finally got out. During his imprisonment, all the old guys in the village died. There is no one who can stop him from taking over. The only trouble is this guy Yitsong. Luosha glanced at Yitsong with his peripheral vision, his eyes cold. During the days of captivity, his attitude was straight and tough, uncompromising. She is admired by many people. We must find a chance to kill her. In the crowd, Yitsong looked blank, not noticing Luosha's killing intent. She looked back at the technical department frequently. She was expecting someone to appear, but after looking for a long time, there was no trace of him. Did that guy abandon me? Yitsong bit her lips, her fingers turned white, and secretly hated. Didn't you say you like stubborn people? I have always acted like I would rather die than obey. Why are you still unwilling to touch me? Is it true that they have no interest in me? Yitsong thought about it, and a feeling of grievance and anger of being abandoned surged in his heart. Many other Sand Shinobi also looked back frequently. However, their thoughts were different from Yitsong. They were afraid that the technical department would change their minds and send people to catch them again. Although they were in prison, they occasionally participated in experiments. Therefore, they knew that the technical development department had long been crazy enough to use ninjas as living materials and conduct various prohibited experiments. Let's go. Yeah, this is not a good place. It would be bad if they changed their minds. I don't want to become material. Everyone had a consistent attitude and left quickly. Soon, the group walked towards the gate of Konoha village. Really not coming? Yitsong finally looked back and glanced at the technical development department, feeling desperate. Then what should I do? I can't go back to the way I was before. Yitsong shouted loudly in his heart. The others looked back and found that no Konoha shinobi appeared, and no one stopped them. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that no one is coming. We can leave smoothly. I haven't been home for more than a year. I wonder how my fiancé is doing. Me too, my newly married wife. Everyone was eager to go home. Whoosh! At this time, a ray of light fell from the sky, and the light turned into a vague figure. Nara Shintaku. Luosha was shocked by what he saw and stopped in a hurry. Other Sand Shinobi also changed their faces. Why is he here? You won't change your mind, will you? No, my newly married wife said she gave me a son, and I still want to go back to see my son. Let us go, Konoha. The Sand Shinobi looked shocked and scared. In the past year or so in the technical development department, they have personally experienced the horror of this 9-year-old monster. Even the 9-tailed beasts could not escape his poisonous hands. The power was sealed and turned into a mascot that was played with at will. He's coming. In the crowd, Yitsong saw Nara Shintaku, and her heartbeat accelerated. Is he here for me? For a moment, her mood fluctuated. Although she was expecting Nara Shintaku to appear, when he really appeared, Yitsong felt timid, fearful, and resistant. Because she knew that she was not in a normal mental state now. If she didn't leave Konoha and return to Tsuchikage, I'm afraid she would never get out of this psychological shadow in her life. 10. Yitsong clenched her silver teeth, but she had long been conquered by the shadow in her heart and didn't want to get out at all. Mr. Shintaku, is there anything I can do for you? Luosha asked with a brave face. Nara Shintaku looked at them calmly. All the Sand Shinobi lowered their heads in fear and didn't dare to look at him. Nara Shintaku also understood why these people were afraid of him. But he didn't come here today to do anything, just for Yitsong. Others can go, Yitsung stay. Nara Shintaku looked at the Sand Shinobi and said lightly. Who? When these words came out, some of the Sand Shinobi in the mine breathed a sigh of relief. It's not that they should stay. Yes, please, we have no objection. Luo Sha showed a flattering smile, bowed, greeted the Sand Shinobi, and walked away quickly from the side. Nara Shintaku ignored him and let him lead the people. The Sand Shinobi ninjas in the field saw that Luo Sha was fine and followed him. In an instant, 2/3 of the Sand Shinobi ninjas avoided Nara Shintaku and left from the side. 8. Several female Sand Shinobi looked at Yitsung worriedly and said, "What are you going to do?" "You go, I'll stay." Yitsung took a deep breath and smiled at several friends of the same sex. "Don't worry, I'll be fine." Several female Sand Shinobi hesitated. They looked at Yitsung with an apologetic look, bowed slightly, and left quickly. Yitsung didn't care. Husband and wife are birds of the same forest, and they fly away separately when disaster strikes. She and these people are just ordinary friends. It is very affectionate to stay for a moment and say a few words to her at the last moment. You can't ask for more. Come with me. After everyone left, Nara Shintaku waved his finger. There was no question, and there was no chance to refuse. He took Yitsung and transferred time and space and left. Outside Konoha village. A group of Sand Shinobi crossed the gate of Konoha and breathed a sigh of relief. We went out smoothly. Ah, it seems that you really let us go. What a pity for Yitsung. We are lucky to get out alive, don't think about others. Yes, let's go back and make Yitsung a hero. Everyone sighed and talked. They couldn't go back to save Yitsung. Tsuchikage was breached, and they still cared about Yijong? Everyone should just live in humiliation. Let's go. Luo Sha said with a breath. His expression was calm, but he was very excited. It's good to keep Yitsung. Yitsung stayed in Konoha, and among my peers, only I am qualified to take over as the 4th Kazekage. After I take the position, it will be Tsuchigage's heaven. Luo Sha was in a good mood. He urged everyone to continue on their way. Everyone missed their hometown, and did not rest much, and ran hard. After I go back, I will give my son, whom I have never met, a nice name. I will get my fiancée back. Before I left, I asked a good friend to take care of my sister. I wonder how she is doing now. My wife likes to play and doesn't save much. I wonder if the attack on Tsuchikage has affected her. In the forest outside Konoha village. The expectations and worries of a group of Sand Shinobi are floating around. In Konoha village. Nara's home. On the second floor of the manor villa, in an empty room. Makoto and the 4 girls, I don't know where they went, probably doing something again. In the end, it was all good for him. Nara didn't care. After beating her up, he let Makoto do what she wanted. I know what you're thinking. Nara Shintaku turned back and looked at Yitsung, who was standing stiffly, but I have to tell you that Makoto lied to you, and I don't have any extra thoughts about you. Swish. In an instant, Yitsung's face turned pale and lost its blood color. It was as if his chest was torn open, revealing his bloody heart completely. Then, what do you mean? Yitsung pursed his lips and asked in a low voice. Me? Nara Shintaku smiled lightly. Of course I'm going to clean up the mess for Makoto, and besides, you're also a very outstanding beauty. There's no reason not to eat the meat that's delivered to your mouth. Just stay with it. Whoosh. As he spoke, Nara Shintaku's body turned into a clear light. The light was as gentle as water waves, submerging Yitsung. Ha! Before Yitsung could react, her consciousness entered a strange state. She seemed to be embraced by a warm sun. Everything about him, from inside to outside, every inch of his body and soul, was occupied by Nara Shintaku and firmly branded. God! God! Yakura was surprised to receive the information conveyed by Nara Shintaku. From this moment on, her whole body and soul belonged to Nara Shintaku. A few months passed quickly. Nara Shintaku simply celebrated his birthday, and in this life, he was 10 years old. But his appearance was similar to that of a 17 or 18-year-old young man. And he would always look like this in the future. Technology Development Department. In a laboratory. Practicing by yourself is really slow. Nara Shintaku sighed and said to himself, no wonder the gods in the past, without exception, chose to open up the channels of speech, establish sex, and spread consonants. It turns out that it is to cultivate the Holy Spirit and the subordinate god. The Holy Spirit and the subordinate god can help the gods expand their concepts and quickly condense the priesthood. At this time, in front of Nara Shintaku, there were several hills of ancient historical materials and books, which were collected by Konoha, and the mythological and legendary historical materials in the entire ninja world. Nara Shintaku found a common behavior of the king's gods from them. Establish a sect. Should I also establish a sect and spread the gospel? Nara Shintaku hesitated. Mainly because establishing a sect also has side effects. The faith of the people will establish a spiritual connection with him, thus influencing each other. Specifically, believers will believe in Nara Shintaku more and more, and Nara Shintaku will also be influenced by faith and change towards the image in the minds of believers. This change will cause Nara Shintaku to deviate from himself. That is what I said in my previous life: incense is poisonous. A few thousand believers, it doesn't matter. But tens of thousands of believers, the superposition of faith and will change qualitatively, affecting me as a god. But to establish a sect, cultivate holy spirits and subordinate gods, the starting point is tens of thousands of believers. So if you want to be promoted quickly, you have to pay a price? Nara's eyes flickered. Suddenly, he chuckled and looked at the empty space in front of him. The system panel appeared. Ordinary gods are indeed like this, but I started to cheat. Current template, Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Development progress, 70%. Develop technology, blood armor technique, dynamic blood armor and static blood armor, flying sickle kick technique, exclusive sage mode, yin-yang escape Kidō, soul activation ascension technique, soul weapon forging technique, blood limit development technique, life shell creation 4.0 technique, physical potion, blood limit awakening potion. The cultivation plan of the power of the universe, the promotion of mortals to immortality. The law of the gods. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 70% of the interim reward research data on the perfect body of the Quincy. Swoosh. The information of the system reward poured out like light. Nara's thoughts turned and he digested all the information. A glimmer of surprise flashed in his eyes. Star episode? Nara got 10 surprising information from this research data. Star episode is a technology to forcibly seize Shinigami Bankai. In the final episode, the pure-blooded Quincy mastered a new power. They improved the original final form of the Quincy into the perfect body of the Quincy, removing the side effect that would make the Quincy lose power after use. At the same time, stability has also been strengthened. The Quincy can open the perfect body at any time with their own will and obtain comparable the power of Bankai. In addition, Yawatch specially made a star-shaped item for Quincy. This item can take away the Shinigami's Bankai. After taking it away, the Shinigami will lose the ability of Bankai, and the Quincy can use the Shinigami's Bankai freely. But there is a side effect. After taking away the Bankai, the Quincy can't start the perfection. In fact, the perfection is the Bankai of the Quincy. Nara Shintaku thought and nodded. One person can't have two Bankai. So, if you take away the Bankai, you can't start the perfection. This makes sense, but this is not the point. Nara Shintaku's eyes flashed, and he focused on browsing Nari's research log. The other party focused on the technology of star-shaped. He concluded, this is a power that has nothing to do with the Quincy, it is the authority of Yawatch.